Good morning, everyone. Texas Homer, Eric Nalene. We're a little bit early today because Eric has to head out, I think, a little 10 minutes early. So we're starting a little early. Coach will be on shortly as well. We kind of switched the game up on him. All right. We're going to talk about the positional strengths and weaknesses for 2025. But we're also going to talk about what it's like to be a first year, kind of first cycle coach on the recruiting trail and how fun that is. So kind of you wrote an article on it, Eric, but what's your kind of point there? We know it takes coaches generally to the second cycle to get their feet wet.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on where you get your coach from. If you take a rival coach, Michigan took Tony Alford from Ohio State. That big board's going to transfer quite nicely from Ohio State to Michigan. There's not much change there. You're going after the same kids. All you do is change it, put on a different uniform. If you bring in a guy like Kenny Baker, who's an assistant DL coach with the Dolphins, or Chris Jackson from the NFL, there is a lot less familiarity. Basically, they're starting from scratch on compiling a big board. Johnny Nansen was a little bit different. He should have had the West Coast evaluated very thoroughly. He was at Arizona. His traditional recruiting grounds were the West Coast, specifically Southern California. And he did come in and offer plenty of kids from SoCal pretty much right out of the gates. When you bring in Chad Scott out of West Virginia, it's I would call that splitting the difference. Now, he's still tied into the running back to the recruiting game. He knows a lot of the right people in Florida, where West Virginia traditionally recruits pretty well. But he's not going to get the type of guys to West Virginia that he can get to Texas, even though he had done a pretty good job of recruiting to West Virginia. But he comes to Texas, and it's February. It's past mid-February. I think it was hired on the 19th of February, and that's a very late start. You saw Javian Osborne, cancel his official visit. We'll see if that gets reset. Who knows? Xavier Crowell, that same night that Osborne cancels his, puts his back on after he'd canceled his because Tashard Choice left for the Detroit Lions. Basically, this is a late start for him, but it's the NIL era. He's at a place where the offense is going to be a big selling point. You've got great run of quarterbacks, including in the 2026 class with Dia Bell, who will be a 5-star eventually. So there's plenty of selling points, but it is a late start. He's going to have to make up ground quick, which is, first thing he needs to do is start working right on Javian Osborne, because I don't think that's going to change who the top back is, because I think that was always Steve Sarkisian's top pick in addition to Tashard Choices. But it is a late start for him. He's got to hit the ground running. Luckily for him, he recruits a smaller position group. You don't cast a wide net at running back like you do at wide receiver, defensive back, or offensive line. So he's going to be able to hone in on a handful of guys, 5 or 6 guys, and it'll end up being a good class. But we have to wait to see how it's going to shake out. It's a long way from playing out. I always urge caution and patience when it's Chris Jackson starting late or Kenny Baker starting late. That worked out well.
Or Choate. Remember Choate?
Oh, yeah, Choate. Yeah, Choate entered the worst cycle of all time. The 2021 recruiting linebacker class in Texas is terrible. He was coming from a place that was had nothing to do. He was not going to have a big board. He came from Montana State, right?
Came from the Great North, yeah.
Yeah, so he did not have a big board. So it's not going to be like that. It's going to work out fine, but we'll wait to see if they can get Javian Osborne to reschedule. I tend to think they will. Texas has a lot of good things going for it, but we'll see.
Coach, didn't you do a piece on Osborne? Was that you?
Yeah, I did. I've done a couple, but yeah.
Yeah, how do you feel about it? Do you think we can get him back in the sphere of influence? Is that when kids cancel that quickly, is that kind of just an emotional thing, kind of just upset, or like what's the deal there? Because that was pretty quick.
It definitely can be emotional. I mean, a lot of things are going on. You can spend so much time getting to know one running back coach since you were a freshman. Now he's going to get ready to go into a senior year. So you got to think about that. It's very emotional, and he has more ties with other schools he's been talking to and other coaches he's been talking to. So I think that give it time, let emotions kind of settle down. You never know what will happen. Give Coach Chad Scott a chance to get to know you, right? And like Eric just said, that's Sark recruitment as well, right? So I think that you just kind of give it time and see how it plays out. I don't think signing day is not until December. You got a long way to go. So you continue to work that and see if you can build a relationship with him.
Michigan in the lead right now?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Damn you, EJ. I've been reading your articles. Send them this way, EJ. Been out of the loop recently. Is Chad bringing a running back with him from West Virginia?
Ooh.
I don't know. They wouldn't hire a coach just to bring in a guy that they could have probably found similar in the portal already, right? That's not a reason they would do it. I don't think last thing we heard, and it was pretty recently, is they like the running back room that they have, and they don't anticipate bringing in somebody from the portal in the spring. Now that'll lead us into the next question.
Before, though, I'm going to break that flow. So that wasn't choices, I like my room. That was a more global, we like the running back room.
Well, I think it was probably Choice and Sark, both of them in agreement. Yeah, I would have taken running back for sure. I'm not sure if there was one that really blew me away. I like that the Joyner kid from USC would have been a good, I'm worried about the floor in that room a little bit. Trey Wisner, you can't expect him to log the amount of carries he did again. Even if he puts on weight, that's just too much for one guy. So they're betting on Jarrett Gibson making a massive jump, and that Baxter's going to come back healthy. So we'll see. They got their, somebody asked me how would you define success for Chad Scott in his first year? It's getting Jarrett Gibson up to speed and also landing 2 studs. So we'll see. Jarrett Gibson's a big part for next year.
And Brett Nelson said there's still time with the spring portal, but a little surprised we didn't get any wide receivers in the first portal period, with Arch being the guy.
Yeah, I mean, whether you get a wide receiver in the first portal or the second, I don't think it matters. So that one's going to work out. I feel confident that'll work out just fine. Maybe you would like a little bit more time for that guy to get on the same page with the playbook and Arch, but everybody in that room expects them to take a wide receiver, and I think they've got a couple in mind that are really good options. So that's I'm happy with the true freshman getting a lot of time with Arch. The guy that they're going to bring in has a lot more experience.
Are they even going to, with the new kind of OTA structure, are they even getting the level of understanding that you normally would? Like, is missing spring going to be as detrimental as it was in the past?
Not for an experienced player that's coming in, already played 3 years in a college system. Most likely, that's usually what they get. Or a guy that's played at least 2 years in the college system. I don't think that's nearly as big of an issue. He's already learned a lot that's going to translate to Texas.
Yeah, Coach down there saying no, and I'm gonna agree with that. Those guys are gonna get up to speed. They do so much work outside of coaches.
I think Vance Bedford's answering his own question. First, let's get to Coach Top here. Coach Top mentions I wanted Braylon Russell bad. Very, very. That's a hard kid to land. You've got to make a lot of concessions, and usually when you have the people behind the scenes making a lot of noise, that's not going to happen. Texas isn't going to play that game. So Braylon Russell from Arkansas,
the Arkansas kid. Yeah. That kid's hard to get down, dude. That kid's like a bowling ball.
Yeah, he's hard to get down to a school too. He went into the transfer portal, came back, then went back. Where's he at now? Didn't he go back to the portal, or did he come back? I don't know. But yeah, that Texas isn't going to play all night. Yeah. Vance Bedford.
Is there a back that'll get a 3rd down and 1?
And I think Vance replies no immediately. I think he's replying to his own question. I think Jarrett Gibson is that guy. Obviously, in the spring, Cedric Baxter is going to be out. Now, Jarrett Gibson is going to be that guy if he doesn't go the wrong way at the snap. It's just getting him up to speed. He's still figuring out some sort of the nuances of the position. But I think, that's got to be Chad Scott's first order of business, is getting Jarrett Gibson ready to go, because we saw the traits. Once he's got the ball, he's a natural ball carrier. And he wrestles with power too.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard a lot of what they've said about the new running back coach is that he was able to find diamonds in the rough. That skill set kind of gets canceled out when you go to the caliber of Texas, right? Because you're gonna.
I don't think so.
I was gonna say, how does that translate if you're fishing for 5 stars and NIL is a major factor? I love that trait, but it doesn't. You don't think it gets canceled out?
I don't think so. I mean, Texas just took Ricky Stewart, and that was an evaluation take. Jonathan Brooks was an evaluation take. That was Stan Drayton. I think running back, you're looking for natural traits, and that's one thing I always liked about Tashard Choice, that vision, balance, feet. He's looking for natural runners, not straight line athletes. Texas took a guy like Tonio Carter back in the day. We remember Kamara. These guys were just straight line. They're highly rated, but they were straight line. They weren't true running backs. So I think you're still looking for the natural traits. You can evaluate. The NFL does it all the time. The NFL finds these diamonds in the rough, undrafted free agents, 5th, 6th, 7th round draft picks. You're still looking for that, especially when you take 2. Yeah, Vance Bedford says you still need to evaluate players, no doubt about it. Especially when you take two running back classes, because it's not like you're going to take 2 top 100 guys very often. I mean, Texas, it might happen in this cycle, might not. But you want to, and they're also looking for those value adds that Trey Wisner brings. That was a great evaluation take. So now evaluation is very important. Vance Bedford, of course, he says the same.
And you think
and to add on to that, you got to remember, Coach Choice came from other schools too. He was at UNT, just like a small school that wasn't on the scale of Texas, finding hidden gems. So he had the same traits. Then he got a big logo behind him, which went on to help with that. So don't discount, where a guy comes from as far as finding, hidden gems and maybe not working for the biggest logo. They all got some of the same trait. That's evaluate good players.
Yeah, well, that's my point. Is I think when you come from a smaller school, you're forced to develop that skill set. I just wondered if it disappeared whenever you're showing up with the 5-star. So, but it seems like your second back is going to be like your real kind of evaluation back, and then you're going to have your 5.
You still have to evaluate. You still have to. You can't go by the rankings and all that. You still, they might have a totally top different 10 than what the rankings are. The number 10 guy might be their number 1. I think the rankings tend to overrate for balance or for speed and athleticism, but like raw measurable athleticism.
Yeah.
Where I think coaches are looking for a little more nuanced. Again, it's going to be vision, smaller things like running with tempo, depending on how the play develops. Just that feel, that natural feel, quickness to and through the hole, that sort of thing. Natural, contact balance. I think, you got to evaluate. It doesn't matter if you've got 2 5-star wide receivers, you're still going to evaluate the difference between both of them, and you can have a preference.
Yeah. Don't worry about rankings. Go find real players. We say that, Coach, but all of y'all end up with top-ranked players. So it's like everyone's like, no one's pulling a team full of 3 stars at this level. All right, guys. Let's talk positional strengths and weaknesses. And let's start. What's the most climactic way? We're going to start with the weaknesses, and we'll work to strengths. What do you think's best? What's going to capture?
Go weakest to strongest.
Okay, weakest to strongest. Let us begin.
Yeah, buddy.
And sorry, I hate doing this, but it's not the fault of the guys in the room.
Well, yeah, it's never their fault. All right, tight end, weakest position group. What's going on, Eric?
Well, I mean, there's no experience. There's hardly any playing time. They need a guy in the transfer portal. Jordan Washington has as much upside. I think he has more upside than Gunnar Helm and Jatavian Sanders. I think he could be more of a two-way tight end as a blocker, receiver. I think he can come out next year and have 45, 50 receptions. That wouldn't surprise me, but it's still going to have some issues blocking, I think. Spencer Shannon needs to take the next step so he can at least become a credible inline blocker. Emery Winston is brand new. Hopefully Jason McKindo can work with these guys and bring some of the blocking skill that Oklahoma State had. I think that's been lacking at Texas, the blocking skill. Yeah. So this group has a long way to go. I think they need another transfer. It would have been nice if Nick Townsend was already on campus. That's not the case. So I think anybody that would do this outside of one of the players' parents would put tight end as the weakest group currently, but that can change.
Yeah. Coach, you like tight ends. So
I do, man. Look, I agree with Eric all the way, only because of the lack of experience. Now, there's a ton of good guys in there, quality guys who can play. They just haven't been able to show it yet. We got a glimpse of it of Washington spring game going across the middle of the seam, right? Going up and high point in the football. Even though he got flipped, he still came down with it. So I think he has all the traits. We know, me and Eric both know a guy who trains him, and I feel like he'll be mentally ready, right? As a kid who wants to learn, who wanted to get better, attach himself to older guys like Gunnar Helm and always falling behind them, which is good. And so, but they just have to play. They're just kind of green, like Eric wrote, honestly. We'll see what happens, though.
Yeah, and then this, if Jordan Washington doesn't pan out, we all think he will, at least in the long term. But for some reason, he doesn't show up. Now we're in a totally weird spot.
He's going to pan out. That dude's a stud. He was way underrated. We've been saying it for a long, long time. But when is he going to be good? Is it going to be this year, or is it going to be 2 years from now?
Right. In the long term, no doubts. But it is this year. So Spencer Shannon, that's going to be the biggest thing. Ian did a piece on his blocking. He needs to improve there too. So
Ian did a piece on Spencer Shannon's blocking?
Yeah. He did. Well, he did one on the tight end room.
Oh, okay. I was about to say.
We were searching desperately for a blocker. And that's why we're hoping, we need the hero walk on to rise that just wants to play fullback.
Yeah, you can find them. Honestly, you can find them.
And then you said you have a sneaky suspicion about Winston being undervalued during his recruitment. And Ian shares that. A couple people on the team share that opinion too. So
Well, I love versatility in that position, and the hiring of Jason McKenna just kind of reminds you that that player exists. That H back, whatever you want to call it, fullback, he can be tight end, a little bit of everything. Especially in a scheme that runs so much 12 personnel, those guys have a lot of value.
Yeah.
Now they have a little more value when you're in line. Tight end is a receiving threat. Somebody has to be good in that regard and stretch the field. But I like Emory Winston. He's got really good natural hands. Kind of, you can just see that how easy it is for him as a receiver. He's got giant hands and just snags the ball out of the air. Fluid mover, but they got the ball in his hands a lot. I'm not sure how good of a blocker he is, and that's for him to really see a lot of playing time. He's going to have to be a credible blocker, otherwise there's not going to be much value in having him on the field.
Yeah. Before we keep going, guys, let's hear from Andre the Lawyer.
This video is brought to you by Andre the Lawyer. If you're injured, trust the team that secured millions for their clients and helped thousands of Texans with their injury case. Car wrecks, slip and falls, 18-wheeler accidents, on-the-job injuries, and wrongful deaths. Don't let insurance tell you what your claim is worth. Hire Andre the Lawyer to fight for you. Principal office is in Dallas, but they serve Texans throughout the state. So don't wait and call Andre the Lawyer today at 214-444-8808. That's 214-444-8808. The contact information is in the description.
Eric, Justin wants you to give him a call real quick.
All righty.
So I'll see you in a second, and we'll continue.
Yeah, you guys keep going. I already know what I wrote, so you guys go ahead.
Hop back on when you can.
Let's do it.
All right, Coach. His next up is running back. I think that's fair. We kind of just covered that.
We did.
So he has Trey Wisner is awesome, one of his favorite players. Everyone has to preface that. We love Trey. We're never knocking Trey, dude. That guy has a crazy heart. Versatile, tough, selfless, all of that. But ideally, he's one of a few backs, not the main guy. And especially after last season, that's a lot of hits that he rallied up. You don't want to put him through that again. You're going to end up hurting him. So that's the reality at running back. So, and then we have Jarek, who we need to make a big jump, right? And he had some issues, I guess, in pass blocking last year, right?
Right. The nuances of that. Every freshman, for the most part, goes through that.
Yeah, is dealing with that. So that'll be kind of tricky. And then Eric's really curious about James Simon out of Louisiana. So first things first, how are you feeling about Trey? Then we'll talk Gibson.
Yeah, you kind of shed some light on it. With Trey, he ended up being banged up towards the end of the season. He took a lot of carries. And so, you always worry about that, which is why teams recruit 2 running backs, especially Texas. I think I would love to see the emergence of Bo Gibson like everybody else. Like, they call him Baby Rhino for a reason. He looked good early on versus Michigan. Right. And then kind of like you say, disappeared due to, I guess, pass blocking. Maybe they didn't trust him as much. I know he had a few fumbles. But Trey was not made to be the guy, right? He was a heavy special teamer. He was going to kind of fill in as he go. We talked about him last off season. Like, hey, he seemed like a running back who got better as he got more carries. But I'm not sure he's made to be the volume running back. Now, he'll tell you different, right? Because mentality, like, give me the ball every single time. I don't care.
Of course. You got to save him from himself.
Yeah. And so I think he's a great running back, but I'm not sure he's made to be maybe say the number one guy to get the bulk of the carries every single time. I think he's a good change of pace back. When healthy, he can make people miss. We saw him bounce off a few people in the playoffs when he got some rest. He bounced off a couple of Ohio State players. Even Georgia in the second game, he bounced off a few guys. But I just think he got banged up through the season because, we ran him more than we ran anybody else.
Yeah, without a doubt. And because we could trust him too, right? Like, he does the right thing. So Trey's awesome. Now we need to help Trey and not make him be our entire running game, which is crazy. All right, Jarek, like you said, had some freshman-y mental lapses. I guess I wasn't on, but big play. I mean, he looks like a linebacker.
He does.
He's huge. But if we can turn him to an every down back, that's ideal. I'm not a big fan of situational backs. I like my running backs to be 1 through 3. If you have to have a third down back, sure, but ideally your running back could work on third down. What do you think about James Simon? I'm excited for him too.
I love him because he's a pro already. Dad's a former college coach, man, been around. So this guy, his older brother played college football, so he's been around the game mentally for a long time. I'm sure he's learned a lot from his dad about just how to go about the everyday life of a college athlete, which is really, really tough. It's a transition for a lot of freshmen. I think he's ahead of that learning curve because he's been around his dad who coached it for a long time. So some nuances that most freshmen got to pick up, he probably already knows. He probably already knows, how to read fronts, read linebackers, and oh, this guy's blitzing, right? And help him protection because he has it mentally. Now he has to see it, he has to do it. But I'm sure he's been through that enough with his dad to help him be ahead of the curve, as most freshmen won't be.
Eric, how do you feel about Simon in the running back room?
I like him quite a bit. I'm working on the story. Well, actually, we've been working on the story for a while, which is why Justin called. We might have some breaking news, so we'll see if I can get a confirmation. But yeah, I love James Simon. I think he's underrated. Very well-rounded skill set. They Jordan Davison kind of backed off Texas because the room was so stacked, but Texas kind of backed off of him too and went all in on James Simon. I like him. Good hands, and he was a lot bigger. I was next to him in Nashville at the On3 gathering, and he was a bigger kid than I expected. I was not expecting him to be as tall or as filled out. Good hands, natural, and football smarts. Comes from a football family. His father's been a coach for a very long time. So James Simon was one of those guys that I think was slept on. We're partially to blame for that. We probably should have been singing his praises. I've got an article coming out pretty soon on some guys that I think are going to hit that were underrated in that class. He's definitely a candidate.
Cool. All right. So that's the bottom two. We're working our way up. The third weakest right now is offensive line. I mean, you lose 4 starters. There's questions there. But we still have some players that have gotten real reps, right? DJ Campbell, Cole Hudson, Trevor Gooseby.
All right, I got to go again. Terry Joseph is going to the Saints. That's a story we've been holding on for a while. A couple of weeks ago, I mentioned, hey, that we're not out of the woods. It came out that Torrey Becton was being pursued. We were sitting on that one, and this one is Terry Joseph going to the Saints. I think
going back home to Louisiana, huh?
Yeah,
exactly. All right, let me go. I got to go tend to the board. But anyway, hey, that's a good article. You guys keep running it.
All right, dude, peace. All right. How do you feel about that? It's a bummer, right? But what are you going to do, man? You're a Louisiana guy.
Yeah.
You get to go back home to the Saints. We've been paying attention to that for, I don't know, a week or two now, but it's a bummer.
When you got older cousins you got Vance Joseph in the NFL doing this thing, you got Mickey Joseph, head coach at Grambling now. I want to say, like, you got ties there, your family there, cousins in the NFL, like that's a football family, right? And so you can kind of see it. It lines up.
Yeah. And but it's tough for our secondary, right? Because you lose both of our secondary coaches. And now we're in the market for a safety coach, huh?
Yeah, man, you're gonna go.
But hey, man, congrats to Joseph. Did a great job. That's awesome, man. You get to go be a coach in the NFL in your home state.
It's an opportunity when you get it. Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks to we're in this different sphere now where our coaches are getting poached, but they're getting poached to like it makes sense type of jobs, right?
Yeah.
They're not getting pushed down the ranks and stuff like that. So Terry Joseph to the New Orleans Saints. I just wish that the cycle we didn't lose coaches this late in the game. That's where it's like
frustrating. I know it's tough. I think why you bring in Coach Mark? Oh, I want to mess his last name up, Ofri, but he has Texas ties. He's been around. He's he's a really, really great young corners coach, man. I think he can handle it. He worked under Greg Schiano, like who's known for being tough, known for building tough defenses, and they play a ton of man coverage. I think he'd be able to come in and fit right away. Do you go get another safeties coach? Maybe so. Or do you let him have the whole secondary? It used to be one guy controlled the whole secondary, and he'd have an assistant. Now you got a safeties coach and a corners coach. It'd be interesting to see what Texas does. But like you said, it's late in the cycle, so now another new guy has to come in and learn the defense, build relationships.
Learn the recruits. Yeah, learn the. Oh, how do you think this affects recruiting? Do you know yet?
I mean, now the safeties thought, well, we lost Gideon. We're getting Terry Joseph. At least we know him. We got a relationship with him. Now they're going to get a brand new guy. But that team is so loaded, and they got a future head coach in Michael Tapp in the room too. So that helps a ton. I think he'll kind of keep everybody on the same page. And whoever the new coach is, Sark has a culture at Texas. And this is Texas at the end of the day. I know a lot of people say that. But has he made a bad hire yet? I mean, every time somebody leaves, he upgrades, in my opinion. So I think the next guy, whoever they go find and they do their search, they'll find a guy that fits in and that has ties and probably knows some of these kids in the recruiting process from previous years.
Well, and this is the Saban model, right? You lose. Yeah. That's how it works, man. And like I said, we're losing guys to the NFL. Like Tashard Choice goes to become the highest paid running backs coach, and he gets to reunite with Gibbs, who he coached. That's a no-brainer. You have Joseph leave to go to his hometown New Orleans Saint. Like it makes sense. It's a bummer, but it is what it is, man.
Yeah.
Hey, yo, we just lost a coach. Yes, Terry Joseph to the New Orleans Saints. Rewind a little bit. We just talked about it. You'll be able to catch up. Breaking news. All righty. Offensive line.
Yeah.
30 less.
Let's finish it, right? Look, I know you talked about it a little bit. We have a couple guys who played. Then we got so many other guys who haven't played, and we hear about them a lot behind the scenes. They're practicing very well. They've been in the 2 deep. But for me as a group, they haven't played together. That's going to be the thing. You got to be cohesive up front. You got to be able to see things the same way, communicate the same way. Gooseby, you put him out there on the island left tackle, he's fine. Like he showed in big moments, he can step in and play right away. I thought he did well versus A&M. He did well versus Georgia, right?
He pretty much only played in big moments, which was super weird.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so for me, he's fine. But then he hasn't played with other guys. That's what's really, really key. Getting those guys to play together. They can be very talented, but man, if you don't pick up a stunt the right way because you're not used to playing with one another or trusting one another, that's going to be the key. So I can't wait to see how they kind of gel. Spring was definitely needed for them, right? Offensive line, everything starts up front. And so you need those guys to be on the same page consistently every single play.
Yeah, what do you do, man? If you're doing OTA styles, like how do you instill – I know the middle reps are going to be there. I mean, not everything has to be physical touch, but how do you train up an offensive line with the OTA style? I guess we're still going to do scrimmages and stuff. It just seems like there's certain – like I don't care about wide receivers. They never – like they can whatever. They can go shorts and shirt all day, but I do get a little nervous, especially with a young line. Not necessarily a young line, but a line that hasn't worked together a lot.
Right.
So it's looking like we'll have Cole Hudson at center. We'll have who's going to be – are we going to keep DJ at left or at right? Then we should have Neto, you think, at left?
Nah, yeah, he should be left. He should be left, theoretically. He should be left because DJ has right.
Yeah.
Unless they switch him for some odd reason.
Yeah. And then right tackle, you think Baker?
I would say Baker. Then you got Kibble, who's going to probably, come in and, work behind him because I think reports is Big Brooks is going to be left tackle behind Gooseby. So the kid out of Georgia, the big kid out of Georgia, big human, extra big human. And so I'm trying to think who else you have behind that. I'm drawing a blank. The kid who played like the extra tight end for us, he would always come in and jump back.
Ogbo.
Depends on how much weight he gained back, right? Because I know he lost a ton of weight. But I think that's a guy. He showed he can move at tight end. I'm sure he can be able to move at tackle too, right? You just got to add some strength and weight back to his game. So that'll be very interesting to see how that works.
Yeah.
But
I'm curious about – I need to see, man, if we can get better interior run blocking. I think we're going to take a step back in pass blocking. But if we can make up the gap in interior run blocking, I think I'm okay with that trade-off.
Yeah.
Now, if we take a step back in pass blocking and still can't run block, I'm not going to be okay with that at all. So
it's going to be interesting to see, man. This is going to be like,
it's important, man. Especially because we're on the two of the bottom three are running back and offensive line. So it's like those positions need each other like crazy, and they're both kind of questions. All right, fourth to last in Eric's list is defensive tackle. He says if he's wrong on the quality of Brevard and Travis Shaw, then he's in trouble. But he says, I don't think those guys are just good depth. I think that's a strong starting duo, even in the SEC, which I was kind of surprised by that. But I feel good. I feel good there if he thinks we have a good starting duo for the SEC.
Yeah, definitely. If you go back and watch the film of those two guys, like in spurts, they showed that they can play. I think Brevard, his best game versus Ohio State, like he was getting in the backfield, penetrating all day, stopping that run game, right? I think he's a guy who's played a ton of football. And a lot of older guys, they're usually wise. They played so much football. You look at – everybody thought, oh, Bill Norton, Jermaine Lele, like who are these guys, right? But you cannot discount guys who played a ton of football and to have a ton of experience, right, and playing up front because essentially they're grown men up there sometimes playing against freshmen and sophomores, right? Yeah. And so they can dominate and kind of take over. And I think you kind of get that with these guys. And then you got the Ohio State kid who also came in who has some tremendous upside. He's super athletic, a former soccer player, by the way, so he has really good feet. But I think you mix in with Justice Terry, who we talked about. Barron Sorrell, Barron Sorrell and Africa Collins both told me pretty much Alex January is that guy, right? He played a ton as a freshman, but they say he's next up. He was doing a lot of great things alongside of them last year. He's poised to kind of take over, I feel, right, as a sophomore and really, really do a lot of great things. So I think that's the guy everybody needs to watch out for is Alex January.
Eric agrees. He said, I would not be surprised to see Alex January open spring ball with the first team. He's lost a little extra weight and he's moving very well. He also made a huge play versus Ohio State by talking that noise and getting punched in the face, and then not responding. I was like, "That's perfect. That's
I'll take it. I'll take it."
Yeah, that's like the version of a football flop, and it's like, yeah, if you can get inside their heads, do that. Terry Joseph gone to the Saints. Yep.
Yeah,
we broke that. I don't know, 10 minutes ago. Bummer, but congrats to Coach Joseph. That's cool, man.
Yeah, definitely.
It's good. Well, I turned down the job to the Saints, and so he was able to get it. That was able to happen. Campbell needs to have his Alfred Collins season, or he'll go down as a 5-star disappointment. Sure.
Yeah.
If I'm thinking back to however many years ago when Campbell and Banks came in, but also Banks is like, I can't grade him on a Banks scale either because Banks is such a weird case. Like to come in and just start perfectly.
I think for him, then even when he has, I guess, down games, they pull him, so he never gets to kind of correct himself. Like I think this year versus last year, I think they leave him in. If he makes a mistake, let him play through it, right? I think you let Cam Williams play through his mishaps, like kind of let Campbell work it out. I think he played a little bit as a freshman. Like as he goes, the more experience, I think he'll get better. Like I said, I don't see an issue with Campbell. I'm not going to call him a bust or say he was a 5-star disappointment. Let's see what he does this year. I think if he comes in, because he'd be one of the veteran guys. We know he's probably the most vocal guy on the offensive line out of there. He don't mind mixing it up whatsoever. He's a tough guy. I think we need him definitely. And so I want to see how he does this year, right? It's a full-time starter, not rotating with Cole Hudson or anybody else. A guy that doesn't have to worry about if I mess up, somebody else is coming in. Because whether most people agree or not, in back of your mind, you think about it. Oh, man, I missed this block. They're about to pull me, right? No, you can't play full 100% the next play like that. You would think you can, but sometimes you can't because you're always worried about getting pulled in and out. And so I want to see him as a full-time starter, no rotations. I think he'll be good.
And that's why I think Banks broke our evaluation because we're like, oh, they should just come in and start for 3 years and crush first-round edges. That's very weird. So we want Campbell to see in a 4th year. Really, linemen are known for their 4th and 5th years. So we can't grade on the Banks curve there. Banks is a very weird example. Just like I can't allow myself to grade on the Bijan curve, which I end up comparing all running backs to that.
That's hard because, I mean, that's the standard. Well, you think that's the standard. It's like, everybody has to be Bijan. Then you saw Roshan come in. It's like, all right, I want that too. And then you saw Jonathan Brooks. So you just
know you're spoiled.
Exact same, the trend to keep going. I think that's the thing, right? But
before we keep going, guys, let's hear from Laura Baker.
Hi, I want to tell you about Laura Baker. If you're looking for a new home in the 512 or even at this point, let's face it, 737 area code, there's only one number to call. That's Laura Baker at 512-784-0505. As a member of the elite Andy Allen team with Keller Williams, Laura has helped Longhorns find the home of their dreams in Central Texas. Just ask our resident sex symbol, Ian Boyd, who moved all the way from Michigan to Texas with Laura's help. Laura can help you find what you're looking for in the 512, the 737, or even parts of the 254 and the 210. Just, give her a call at 512-784-0505. Her email is in the description as well as the rest of her contact details. She's a friend. Give her a call.
All righty. Next up, I think this is day 5th. Now we are not in the weakest portion. We're kind of in the middle of the pack here. He thinks the 5th weakest, 6th strongest. Or no, it's 5th weakest. Yeah. He thinks it'll be cornerback. Okay. New coach there. We'll also have to evaluate safety. In a new light here shortly. But so corner, he had Malik Muhammad had his late season struggles behind him, and he'll be the player we've seen for the majority of his career. Then Eric does a victory lap and saying that people thought he's going to be better than Barron, and Barron was better. So Eric wants you guys to know that you were wrong and he was right. But Malik Muhammad to lead that room. And then he says he's not sure how much Jalen Gilbo will play corner this spring.
It's going to be interesting.
So we'll figure that out, which I thought that was what's going to happen. But with new coaching too, it's kind of weird. So how do you feel about the cornerback room?
Yeah, you look at Malik going into his 3rd year. I know everybody looks at, a couple of catches that he gave up at the end of sophomore year. Like, he didn't have a sophomore year slump, honestly. He just played opposite of the Thorpe Award winner. But I think Malik could be fine. Malik is a great technician, man. He understands the position very well. Is he the fastest guy? No, but man, neither was Darrelle Revis, right? His technique is what got him by. He's really sound. I think Malik Muhammad would be great going into his junior year. I think he can blanket one side of the football field, and you maybe can have shade help to the other corner, whoever it may be. So I think Malik could be fine. You talked about Warren Robinson or Kobe Black. We saw both do great things. We saw Kobe step in a few times when Malik or Jade went out or moved to different positions playing safety or nickel, and he did well, especially versus Vanderbilt when he came in. And for the most part, he only gave up one catch versus Andrew Armstrong for Arkansas, right? So he played well when he came in. So I think those two guys will battle it out. We kind of see who wins, but you have a lot of young talent behind them. So you just got to find who that second guy is on the other side. Or do you rotate until they play themselves out of it? You could do that as well. But they have a lot of good traits. I love Warren Robeson mentally, man. I think he's just a complete dog at playing corner. He'll get in your face, press you up. He can run. He's physical. But Kobe has all the traits too. He's long, athletic. And so you got two guys I think are different type of corners, but rotate them until you find out, who that guy is, solidifies as the spot.
So it's feeling like they want to keep Jalen, at least right now, at nickel, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, he's experienced at nickel, or he can jump out there and play corner. We saw him play a little bit of corner his freshman year.
Yeah.
Right? He started versus Alabama. He got to play a ton. So he has all the traits and tools to play corner as well. We saw the transition. Look, nickel is one of the hardest spots to play. Everybody picks on you because you can't react. You're just reading the whole time. And so offenses read off of you. So everybody's kind of down on him. But Gilbo's a great player. He does a lot of great things for Texas. I think he can step out and play corner as well and have a great season. You'll get two physical corners who are technicians if you got him and Gilbo and Manny on either side. And you can slide somebody else to nickel. But it's going to be interesting to see what the new secondary coaches do with that room now, and moving pieces around.
Yeah, it's tough, right? It's going to be hard to project now because coaches come in and like different traits and like different guys. And it's it's not as sure thing as it was just this morning even. So it will be interesting. And then Santana Wilson waiting in the wings. He's an intriguing player too. I want to see the rise of Santana Wilson.
Yeah, I think another pro. Dad played in the NFL. Nuances of the game. I know he came in late. He wasn't an early enrollee, so I think he came in the fall. But they love him and all the traits and everything he can be. He's a bigger corner, but I think that he has a chance to be really, really good. You notice something about Texas recruiting? Like they're recruiting a lot of former NFL guys, kids, man, which is really, really cool. Which those guys can kind of step in and play mentally because they understand the game a little bit more than most. But I think Santana Wilson has a great chance. We saw Wardell Mack play a little bit. When he got in, he got an interception right away. Can't think what game that was. I want to say UTSA, but he got a pick at the end of the game, preserved him from scoring a touchdown, or Colorado State, right? And so I was like, okay, so he showed some things on film that he can do. So you have a very, very talented room. I think you just kind of get those pieces together and find out and let them sort themselves out by just competing every single day, man. Corner is a very hard position. And if you're a young guy playing corner, you go through a lot of ups and downs, man. You got to find a way to put plays in the rearview mirror and bounce back the next play. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and also getting pros kids, man, that's a cosign that's important, right?
Yeah.
Because those guys know what college looks like. They know what the pros look like. They know what coaching looks like. And so anytime you have a former pro player's kid in, it's a good sign for your program.
Yeah.
We have a comment. I think Joseph leaving is a blessing. Now the main voice is a man-to-man coach. Sark is going to hire a like-minded coach.
Yeah.
I mean, PK's scheme to me is PK's scheme.
Yeah. I was about to say that. I think you add different people in who probably can have maybe a new voice, right? Because you don't want to change be the same scheme every single year. You want to add nuances to it. So maybe you bring in a guy who specializes in man. In certain situations, hey, we're going to play man. Well, now you got a guy who is good at teaching man, right? Or somebody who has the same scheme. I want to say he coached with Choate in Montana State. Mark did. So he got a good recommendation from Choate, right? And so that's the kind of guy he is. He was an analyst at Alabama. He learned under Nick Saban, who really coaches the DB.
He got extended twice at Rutgers too. So other people were trying to poach him.
Yeah.
So that's important too.
I think he's going to be great and do great things here, man. I think he's young. I think he can relate to the kids. He'll be a new voice, but he'll be able to relay the message to those guys because they'll say, okay, not only coach, but see like a big brother, big mentor who can probably listen to the same music the whole now. Like it really, really matters when you're trying to gain buy-in in a room. Can you relate to the kids? I think he'll be able to do a great job of that. He already has great relationships in the state of Texas. So I think he was a great hire at the corners coach. And man, he'll do great things.
The new FB coach is a man-to-man. He's clarifying is a man-to-man coach. So there's no problem with him implementing a style because Sark will hire Joseph's replacement to complement him, a man-to-man safeties coach. What I'm saying, yeah, I get that, but there's an overarching scheme that we run, which is match 3. So like, of course, we want man, but it doesn't just mean like the defense is going to turn into a man defense based on what position coach you hire.
Right.
They're going to have to fit within the scheme, but having a man skill set is also cool.
Exactly.
And we play man enough, right?
Yeah,
all right.
man, we started to. I loved it.
Yeah. Papa Dot, thank you. What has to happen for the expectations and the standards of UT football to match? The expectations from fan media is to expect Texas to be competing for championships. The standard is championships. For this year, I need to see more out of the portal. The roster doesn't seem championship. Not to knock. It's just, dude, like what we have, like one returning offensive starter.
Oh, I guess DeAndre Moore started, and then I guess Wisner, but
Wisner, who we don't know is actually a starter. DJ Campbell,
DJ and DeAndre Moore,
So even Cooper Manning in an interview, they're like, "You think Arch is going to take him to the championship this year?" He's like, "Guys, it's like a brand new offense. Like, chill out." I think the following year, right? The answers here is like, man, if we can make the playoffs, I feel good. Because also defense is something that I feel more confident in because we have more guys returning. But man, I think that Texas defense last year was like an all-time defense too.
I was about to say that. Like, I've never seen. Well, let me not say never seen, but the fact that they were able to, like, man, they communicated at such a high level. The back end worked with the front end, like they just matched and married so well. Like, usually it's either the trenches do well and the secondary is behind, or secondary is good and the guys up front are not doing their job. But like, to be on the same page throughout the season, man, like they bought in. You can tell, like, the communications at a high level. They really bought in. They really were like, okay, we're going to do this together. And so that was great to see. I think that's why the defense was so good, because the front end and back end worked well together. No communication issues whatsoever, by the way.
Yeah, and I think what makes a good team, right, is returning starters that are talented, which we had, and then coaching stability. And we don't have a bunch of returning starters, and we don't have the level of coaching stability. So I would expect a step back this year. I just don't want it to be a cliff step back, I want to make the playoffs. That's kind of how I'm evaluating this team. Unless they do some like crazy stuff in the portal. But mostly right now, that's my expectations. I think it would be unwise to assume a national championship this season. Now, the next season, I think you could expect that.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. We got a lot of young talent, but it's like, you look at this room and the way Texas has recruited, then Texas is loaded with a lot of young guys. Now, those guys have to develop and play and still show it, but on paper, you look at it, it's like, okay, I see what you guys are doing in the recruiting, and those guys come to fruition and really develop and play. Texas is going to be really, really good. So,
yeah, Wingo, yeah. But I'm talking about like game 1 to end of the season starters.
Yeah,
and so and we didn't have that. Campbell was a starter, but Campbell would also get pulled sometimes. Moore also struggled towards the end and got pulled sometimes. Wingo would be in this weird limbo with Bond. And then Wisner, who was a starter, we don't think will be a starter necessarily. So that's what I mean with starters. Like, we have guys that have reps. Every team is going to have guys that have reps. But I mean, like, wall-to-wall, sure thing starters we're lacking. And that was not – so that's what's going to be interesting. So this is – I think TW kind of has – make the playoffs and see what happens. I think that's how I'd evaluate.
Yeah.
Ohio State is replacing 8 starters on defense and a defensive coordinator, but no one thinks they're going to take a step back, not to mention their offense. Why aren't they taking a step back? I think Ohio State is going to take a step back.
Yeah. Look, a lot of those guys came back. What they say, they had the highest, they had to pay the most to retain their roster. Like, a lot of those guys could have went pro last year, right? And so they all decided to come back. They had a bunch of veterans. And that's another thing to talk about. You can be talented, but if you have a ton of veterans out there, man, that really, really helps. Like, coaches don't have to coach as much. A lot of the guys, they get it. They understand they can bring the young guys along. So I think it paid off for Ohio State. Minus Caleb Downs, who was a true sophomore, but he's just exceptional talent. But they had a ton of older guys back there. And so I think they will follow. With a brand new DC and Matt Patricia, hey, good luck. As a Patriots fan, I'm just going to say good luck.
Yeah. I think he's referring to the media narrative. Yeah. Well, I don't. Great. National media can think whatever they want.
Right.
They're just going off of who is good. But I think Ohio State's absolutely going to take a step back.
Yeah.
I mean, they won the national championship, so not winning the national championship would, by default, be a step back. But yeah. So, and when I mean a step back, I'm not saying we're going to win 7 games. I'm just saying I don't think we're going to get. I just don't think we're going to get to the semifinals.
I hate to see the skies falling and they come after you, Dave.
I know. I was like, I think we'll have like a 10-win season. I want more.
Yeah.
But historically, we saw Ohio State won because they had a super mature team. They had a mature quarterback.
Exactly.
It was like 95 years old. And then you had Michigan the year before. And then before that,
what happened to them when they all left, went to the NFL, the decline they had. So I think it really matters. I think that's why you go to the portal, especially in the trenches. You'll get older guys and kind of replace what you had. Because it really paid off for Texas this year, having Norton, Lole come in along with Alfred Collins and Broughton, like it really helped have those older guys up front.
Yeah.
Set the tone very well. So you went and got Andrew McCuba, another veteran, right? So it helps when you have veteran guys back there who know what they're doing. No matter if the young guys are talented or not, they just haven't played a ton of football.
Yeah. I think they are. I'm just saying we offer so much grace to teams like we haven't recruited like crazy. Yeah. Well, the national media does because they're lazy, and they don't. The national media doesn't know rosters. They know like they're going if they can name 6 guys on a team, therefore the team is good. So it's like, yeah, I would advise you to never listen to national media by default. Like it's hard enough to know one team really well and be a Texas YouTuber. There's no way you can do that with the entire SEC. There's definitely no way you can do it with all college football. So take the national guys with a grain of salt. If you really want to know teams, man, shout out to the local guys. Those are the ones that really know what's up. All right, let's keep going. The fourth strongest, let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, the 5th strongest will be wide receiver.
Yep.
Eric says, Ryan Wingo, future high first-round pick. I agree. He comps him to Rome Odunze in college.
Yeah.
Which I'm good with. I love Rome Odunze.
I'm good with that as well. I saw him put Terrell Owens in there. Somebody else compared him to Terrell Owens. I was like, man, he got a big body like that. He got some speed like T.O. T.O. wasn't the best, I guess, route runner, but a great body catcher catching traffic. But, I mean, Wingo has a chance to be really, really good. I think we saw just a glimpse of what he can be. Like, if he doesn't have route running down all the way, okay, throw him a slant. Like he's gonna run through people, throw him a quick screen. Like let him just kind of gain. I think that's the guy that Chris Jackson would develop over the offseason and get better because he knows now I'm the number one guy. I have to work on a lot of things. Work through contact down the field for 50-50 balls and stuff like that. But he was a freshman, man. I think he's gonna be good. I think people just see Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams and think, well, we got Wingo. He should be doing what they're doing. It's like everybody's not the same, but Wingo is very, very good. I think he has a chance to be the next. It can be Roy Williams who actually shows up versus OU. And I think he's next. He has that body type and mold of Roy. So I think he's going to be excellent. He's going to be good.
Also, Sark is super picky with wide receivers. Like he won't give you the ball if you're not doing exactly what you need to do, which frustrates me sometimes because there's other positions that get far more leniency than wide receiver get. But Sark's weird with wide receivers, man.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, Wingo, even if it's not perfect knowledge of the scheme, I do not care. Throw him a slant.
Yeah.
Like you got it. That kid is talented. Anytime he gets the ball in his hand and runs, you automatically know he's special. DeAndre Moore, inconsistency, right? Some drop issues, stuff like that, but the talent is there. So as the maturation process occurs, plus, man, we've been hearing for a while that him and Arch have like good connection.
Mm-hmm.
We were hearing that even when Quinn was here the last offseason. So I think DeAndre Moore is a special talent too. If we can just get rid of a couple of the headaches, I think we have a damn good slot.
And DeAndre is one of the hardest workers on the team, and he has that Jordan Whittington type of mentality. Like he's going to show up early and he's going to leave late. Like people don't understand. I know he had drops, but he's on a judging machine, like catching hundreds of balls, man, trying to get his hands right and everything. So he really, really works hard at this thing. Sometimes mentally, he had the turf toe issue. You never know what goes on in the season. Catching the ball can be a mental thing too. You just overthink it instead of looking the ball all the way in and just being natural. So I think DeAndre Moore will work himself out of whatever funk he had with the drops. I think he'd be fine. We saw what he can do when he's on. Look at the Vanderbilt game. Look at the Georgia game. That play was not designed to go 60 yards for a touchdown, but he made a guy miss and went to the house. So he can be special. He's faster than most people think. And so I think DeAndre will really be think he'd be a good, solid player for Texas going into the next season, man. He could be the leading receiver. You never know.
I think the arch connection is important there, like that fade he dropped.
Yeah.
On the
You see
sideline.
the state? Yeah.
Oh, boy. That was sick.
That was a hard ball to catch like that. Like, yo, that was perfect.
I think quarterbacks, too, like some receivers just flow better with other quarterbacks, and I think we might see that with Moore and Arch as well. Okay, and then we have the guys waiting in the wings that are all talented. We just got to see. So Eric wants to pick two. Hopefully, two of these will rise: Parker Livingstone, Aaron Butler, Khalif Lockett, Dalen McCutcheon, and Jamie French. Out of those 5, we think we're going to get some production out of there. Those were all talents coming out of high school. So, how do you feel about the newer guys, younger guys, or non-starters in the room?
Man, I like a lot of the young guys. First of all, I'm talking about Parker Livingstone. Parker's really good. He's better than most people give him credit for. He probably could be close to being the fastest guy on the team. Like Parker can run, but he can run routes, he can catch. He can go up and win 50-50 balls. Like he's a very competitive guy who started out on the scout team but worked his way to the travel squad. Like that's hard to do, right? I mean, you have to actually show something in practice consistently to even move to the travel squad. So that means he was pretty much dominating on scout team going against the first team defense. So he earned his stripes a little bit, and I think he'll be good. I think spring would have been very good for him, and I'm ready to see how he plays out. But I want to see what he does early in the season. I think Parker Livingstone can be really, really, really good. Sticking to the young guys, the same high school as Parker Livingstone, I'm gonna go Dalen McCutcheon, who also went to Lovejoy.
Yeah,
Dalen understands the route tree already. He's coming in prepared mentally than most kids are. Like he's training for this moment, right? And he has to go out there and do it. But I think Eric wrote about the other day. He's doing well in 707 right now. I know most people don't pay attention to it as much. But the fact he's a freshman going out there and having good time with the quarterbacks and doing well versus guys already on campus speaks to his, maturity, his level of play where he's at already. I think he just understands spacing already. He played in a kind of a pro-style offense at Lovejoy, right? 2 different coordinators, but he played for Todd Dodge this past year. Still had a great season. We all know what he can do and what he's done with receivers in the past at Westlake. So McCutcheon is a guy everybody needs to pay attention to. And then if I had to mention another guy, I'm going to go Jamie French, who's just silky smooth. I don't know. You can call him Jerry Jeudy. You can call him Xavier Worthy the way he moves. I'm not saying he's fast as those guys, but he can run every route. He's just like a smooth guy. Can't even put a finger on who he is. Maybe Jordan Addison type of receiver, man. I think he's going to be great and fit in. He can play inside and outside.
It just falls and lands and stays.
Man,
this is where it's like, this is where we're doing a cop-out naming everybody. But like, I agree with what you said. And then Aaron Butler, I like a lot too, man. Like he did that overtime documentary a year or 2 ago, whenever he showed up. I liked his mindset. He had a pro mindset and was doing a lot of work. And then Khalif Lockett, I also love, man. That's my style of wide receiver. Go up and get it, dude. Like
everybody loves him. Like he big,
dude,
long athletic, has big human hands. So
I love that, dude.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you got to just moss dudes. It's not, it's like that matters, dude. Like you're gonna match up with a corner who's like a first rounder. You're not gonna be able to always shake them. Like sometimes you just got to win the ball in the air. And that's important, man. And also it bails your quarterback out, especially when they're young and especially when they have a young O-line. All right, next position of power, in the 4 spot, we arrive. Quarterback.
That's easy.
Yeah. So Arch Manning will provide some very strong off-schedule playmaking this season. That's important. In addition, Eric says he has leadership, intangibles, and toughness. We've seen that. Especially on the sideline getting hype. He'll also take a hit and throw a dot. And so he's his own sort of force multiplier because he will use his legs when needed. Expect more pocket movement, more RPOs, great, and deep shots this year. Perfect. All of that. Eric does want to emphasize that he will make some, he doesn't say poor decisions. He says make some really poor decisions while trying to make a big play. He'll learn from it, and there will be some hiccups. Sounds like a young quarterback. Sounds like a young, confident quarterback that's trying to make something happen. So we're going to have to take our lumps, but I think we're going to have some high highs and some low lows.
Yes.
Right?
I'm curious to see if his check downs will fill the deep ball. That'd be interesting to see. But I think, man, he knows his offense inside and out. I think he's just getting continuity with the guys that he's going to be throwing the ball to. I think that's going to be the key because that really dictates what you can do on offense. You can be talented, but if you don't trust the guys to run every route or have the entirety of the playbook, then it kind of shrinks you. So I think that's where you see a lot of off-schedule plays from Arch, but when we all see what he can do with his legs, I don't know if they run him as much this year because he is the guy, right? He's not the backup. So I don't know, man. Arch is going to be Arch. Arch is going to be good. He's a pro's pro. I feel like leadership-wise, he's going to have every guy on the field. Hey, we're doing 2 days back-to-back. I know we just worked out with coaches, meet me in the bubble. Like, we're running routes. We're going to do something. I think that level of execution expectation is going to be higher this year, because Arch is going to make sure that everybody knows, not just the starters, but the backups too. Like, I think people are just drawn to him, what kind of leader he is, what kind of person he is. He's vocal. He'll get in your face if you're not doing your job type of guy. So I think you need that. Maybe they need it from Quinn, because that's not Quinn's personality, but it's not an Arch and Quinn comparison. I just feel like Arch, it's going to be on a different level and have to get guys up to speed. He's going to bring everybody with him. I can't wait to see how that, unfolds.
And we know behind the scenes, people are excited to play with Arch, man.
Yeah. I would be.
Yeah. There's a spark there that he brings. That's a lot of fun.
Yep.
He's not young anymore. Year 3 isn't young. Yeah. I mean, technically he's not, but young in reps, right?
Yeah. Young in reps.
Young in experience, in game experience. But it was awesome that he had some real games last season. So like I said, I think Arch's next year is Heisman campaign Arch and championship Arch. We'll just have to see this year, but I still think it's going to be a lot of fun. Next up, now this is one we're going to have to maybe adjust course a little bit. The third strongest position on the team is safety, but of course Terry Joseph heading back to Louisiana kind of changes maybe, but it doesn't change the players in the room. It just changes the coach. So Eric wants to leave Jelani McDonald at safety for this, though it's possible he could go to nickel.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Tapp and McDonald would be one of the top 2 or 3 pairings in the country at safety,
right, with
experience as well. And then Texas will get even better after spring when Derek Williams returns and Jonah Williams is done moonlighting as Moonlight Graham. So whenever Jonah Williams is back from baseball, Derek Williams is healed up. Now we got some NFL athletes depth on top of that. So we don't know about like Jordan Johnson-Rubel. We feel good about him. We hear great things about him behind the scenes. But how do you feel about safety? Eric has the number 3 spot. I like the room a lot.
Very talented room. I think you got a coach on the field in Taft who's played a ton of football. I think it really, really helped. Helped at McDonald. It helps that those guys didn't play a lot of – they kind of shared reps, right? McDonald got in a lot and got a lot of game experience versus a lot of big-time teams and played in a lot of big-time games. So you saw him. He started versus Arizona State, right, because they knew they were running the ball. So he got in at nickel over Gilbo. So he's versatile. He can do a lot of things. Jordan Johnson-Rubel, I think, is really going to be a player that people really need to pay attention to. He's really, really – he's good. He's talented. Mental eval is great. He's physical. So much talent in the room. You got Derek Williams. I know he's coming back from injury, but before that, he played a ton as a freshman. We saw what he can do. Like you said, I love the Moonlight Graham thing. Field of Dreams. But, yeah, I think we all know what Jonah can be. We saw what he did in high school. I think there's probably not an athlete like him playing safety. We haven't seen in a long time. I'm not calling him Ed Reed, but he just has that kind of ability, man. He has the ability to erase anything, right? And so he's a special player. So you got a talented room. I think Michael Taft being in that room, being a leader, really, really helps because you need that. Losing Makuba hurts, right? But then you got Michael Taft who can help bring these young guys along. You got Fasami, I just saw somebody put there. I think he's still learning the position, right? I think he's an athlete playing safety. He's a big guy. I'm not saying he's Tyler Owens, but he has that kind of traits. He's super fast. He's physical. He can run. But he has to learn the position of safety. And I think if he puts it all together, he can be good. Then you got, I know he probably didn't mention this in the article. He probably did, was Hicks out of Georgia, Carrollton, Georgia. Another physical kid to play safety. So I know he's on campus doing great things right now, going through workouts. Could redshirt, maybe not. Who knows how he develops? Like those guys need a spring, but it's a talented room. I think that all has to just come together once we find out who the new coach is.
Yeah. Now we got another coaching search.
Yeah.
Those are fun at least. Those are fun at least. All right. Number 2 spot, Eric has the linebacker. Anthony Hill,
Given.
Pretty good player, right?
Yeah.
And then Leonga Lafau also starting there. And then we have the addition of Brad Spence. And we have the young Ty Anthony Smith starting to pop. And, of course, we hear great things about Ty Anthony. He stepped foot on campus.
Yeah.
And then also we have the young Elijah Bo Barnes, who you were able to follow a lot of that recruiting. And you think he's going to be a baller too. So
I do. We
feel good about the linebacker room. We feel good about pro potential in there. We feel good about experience. So, and Eric says expect a big bounce from Lafau starting this spring too. So, what do you think about linebacker?
I agree. Look, Anthony Hills, I know he's putting in work right now in the offseason. So the same trainer that, Michael Taft, Andrew McCuba, and Jade Barron work with. Now, Anthony Hill's working with him, right? So he's working on that pass coverage, like Eric mentioned. So I think he'll be a complete linebacker and getting ready to go to the NFL in the first round. Like he's gonna put it all together this year. LaFau, another year of experience, another year just diagnosing plays. It's hard. People don't understand at the college level. A lot of teams do a lot of different things to confuse you, get you the wrong reads, get you out of your gap. So I think him having another year of playing and seeing it, I think he'll be even better. You look at Brad Spencer, transfer from Arkansas. When I watched his film, one of the first plays is versus Kelvin Banks. Like he's blitzing him and he blows up Kelvin Banks, which most people are not even running into that guy, but he ran into him, got off and got a sack on Quinn. So he played a lot of SEC football. I think he's tough. Arkansas has a tough mentality, man. So he's going to bring that in, some experience. And then, of course, I like Ty Anthony Smith. He showed what he can do when he got in last year. Super athletic. I think he's probably the most natural linebacker right now. He may not have the frame, the size, but, man, he can play. He can read and diagnose very well. When he sees it, he triggers, he goes. And he's also athletic enough playing pass coverage. And then you got Elijah Barnes, who following Anthony Hill around like his shadow right now. Like he's trying to soak up as much information as possible, watching a ton of film. He's hungry to learn. He wants to be good. And I think that's the thing with him. He's going to outwork a lot of people. And I think he's going to be the next great, right? I can't wait to see how his body kind of transforms, getting the baby fat off, and Coach Beck can get his hands on him and mold him a little bit. But mentality-wise, the kid wants to be great. He's hungry. Like I remember just talking to him. I can't wait to get the spring go. He's along. Like these teammates at Texas, they got to feel a little bit. I cannot put the pads on. Like he was ready and amped up to go. As a kid, most kids don't see that. They're kind of shy. Like, oh, what is it going to be like at the next level, right? He was ready to take on that challenge, and so I cannot wait. It's a very talented room. I think we see what Coach PK can do with that room, right? And Coach Nance and what they can do with the linebackers. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, I'm excited for the room too. And then number one, we have. I guess everyone can deduce what this is going to be. The edge room. So Ethan Burke can offset the loss of Barron Sorrell, hopefully, right? I love Barron. Yeah. But Ethan got a lot of reps, insanely tall. Whenever he's in his 4-point, he looks like a jaguar. You know, like he's like insane, like how spread out he is because how tall he is.
Yeah.
But that'll be nice to have Ethan full timing.
Yeah.
Of course, Colin Simmons, what a freak, dude.
Unfair.
It's like his first step off the line is like no one's beaten that in period. It's insane. He almost appears psychic. It's so weird how he times the snap so well. And then on top of that, not just 5-star twitchiness. He's plays hard as hell. If the ball gets past him, he's running 20 yards down the field to make the play. I mean, he's got like a 3-star mentality with 5-star traits. Colin Simmons, special player, first round type guy.
Yep.
And then we got Trey Moore back, which I think was really cool.
Yes.
I'm really excited. And then his whole thing was like, look, I'll come back, but you can't – I'm not just going to be a situational guy too.
Right.
You know, I want to play every down type or, play first and second, not just a pass rush guy. So having Trey Moore back I think will be important. The first half of the season, it was like, what's going on with Trey Moore? That second half, there was no question there. He was making plays. So I love Trey Moore coming back. And then hopefully – I know Colton Bosick is healing from a shoulder surgery, but he should be healthy by then too. Man, Burke, pro player. Simmons, pro player. Yep. Moore, pro player. Not as high as we thought. Probably some traits thing. And then Colton Bosick, pro traits too. So it's like that room. And you got like a young Lance Jackson in there. Like that's an NFL top to bottom room.
Yeah, you know, me and you talked about Burke last year. Like he was high on NFL draft boards, right? He's consistent. You talk about a guy that's technically sound, does his job every single time the right way, 100% of the time. Like he is that, right? Another guy I know, Colin Simmons. Look, that goes without saying. If he could, he probably can go to the NFL the next year. Maybe pull the Maurice Claret and Mike Williams, kind of go early as a sophomore. Like he's ready to go. Another year, he's probably ready to go. Yeah. I think, like you said, Trey Moore. I think he did a lot of great things. He was the guy who was doing, a lot of dirty work, right? But then as the season went on, he kind of pinned his ear back and became the player we all thought he could be. So he's great. Another guy that Barron Sorrell mentioned when I talked to him is Zena Umeozulu. I hope I said his last name right.
What about Zena, dude? This room is stacked.
Zena is going to be a baller player. I think Eric talked about, I think this is one of the guys that Eric is kind of high on. And hearing it from Barron Sorrell, it's like, this kid has a chance to be next. Like Zena's putting in the work. He takes notes. He wants to be good. He listens. He understands. If you tell him something once, he's going to get it right. And the light bulb has come on. I think it's another guy.
It's a smart family too. He's from a smart family.
He is, right. And he's tough, right? His brother on the offensive line known for being tough. So think Zena's going to be a player. Like you said, Vosick, I know he another surgery, but I want to see what he can actually do. I know he played a ton. He got in yesterday at Ohio State as well. So he played a few snaps and did well. So edge room is just loaded with so much talent. With the new coach, Alan Clark, who's known for developing. I know he trains a ton of edge guys.
Right.
So he develops guys. That's what he does before coaching, right? So I cannot see what he does with this room. It takes it to even new heights, man, because it's a loaded room, but they got a great coach, to go along with it.
Yeah, and he's training pros currently. So he knows exactly what you need to be able to do.
Bring those guys to Austin. Let them be around them. They all can work together. They can kind of see what it is to be a pro, right? And take it to the next level.
Yeah. All right. That's the list. We had breaking news. You guys even got a little breaking news in there. And
yeah, man, that was awesome. I mean, well, not awesome, but awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exciting, but not great. But we will cover the coaching search. And then you guys, of course, go to InsideTexas.com. Eric, whenever they have the candidates list and all of that, we've been sitting on that Terry Joseph stuff for a couple weeks, waiting to see when the ball is going to drop there, and it did. But it'll be interesting to see. Fans, thank you guys for hanging out with us. Coach, thank you for your time. It was a little bit of a weird day, but appreciate you guys and hook 'em.